So what's up, everyone? Um, Today we're gonna do some testing because there's a lot of uh, you know doubts raised about the Valla's Bequest, saying that they give a lot of damage and stuff like that. But I highly doubt it. You know, we already did some testing before with dioxide and area. So what I'm going to do today is I'm gonna have the exact same sheet DPS damage because I have both weapons primal. As you can see, 10% damage, uh, increased hatred regeneration on my Dawn. Also on the Valla's Bequest, 10% damage, hatred regen. The only thing that is different is the strafe damage, but that is not gonna have an impact on our testing because strafe doesn't do much damage, so that's pretty negligible. On cube, I'm gonna be using Dawn here, so there's not gonna be any difference between the two tests. I know I'm already slotted Dawn here and stuff, but when I switch to Valla's Bequest, I need because of the Vengeance. But anyways, it's not gonna impact with the Dawn. And so I'm gonna run 120s back to back. I think I'm gonna do around let's say 3 with the Dawn and 3 with the Valla's Bequest, and then we can, so that way. Quiet Howl area. Can you go to? Hello. Can you hear me now, or is it too loud? All right. So, anyways, that's the testing I'm gonna be doing today. Probably area and dioxide is going to test more tomorrow with other other parameters. But I wanted to do this just to show everybody that what I feel from this weapon, it actually doesn't change that much. So let's go ahead and see. What's up, area?
Yeah, not much. I mean, I was just testing. I just did a simple 130. I mean, I did get a really good first floor, and then I did get a power pylon for the boss. So, I mean, in one test, I couldn't really feel that Valos was doing anything like absolutely amazing. So it's probably as Woody Joe said. If it does anything, it's like less than. It's only 10, 20% more or something, and even then, only in high density. If it is so Landy on the forums was saying it might be an internal cooldown issue, that if you're just hitting more targets more of the time, you're more likely to have less gaps between when it's available. So if it's available after the internal cooldown expires, the next strafe hit will proc a projectile. And the thing is, if you're hitting things more often, you're more likely, that gap between when you can fire or when you can proc and when you do proc is shorter on average, and that could lead to additional projectiles. But the only issue with that is, even in the worst case scenario, if the internal cooldown, let's say, is 0.25 seconds, right, or something, and let's say you're not quite hitting a monster right when the cooldown is off cooldown, I mean, you're not gonna get that many more projectiles. I mean, you're still gonna have to wait for the cooldown, and you're still gonna be at the mercy of when the proc happens. And so,
Yeah,
in other words, even
it's really weird. I mean, I don't feel any change on damage. From when I
well, for sure it's not changing the damage, and in terms of the number of pierces is not changing, the distance of the projectile is not changing, the pierce count of the projectile is not changing. So what it seems to be, according to some others, that it might be the most likely thing is that you're getting. It's not that you're getting additional procs with it. It's more like you're not optimally procking without it, in a sense, if that makes sense. That if you're not using it, there are sometimes little windows, like fractions of a second, where your internal cooldown on the GOD 4P set is available, meaning you're allowed to proc another primary, but the strafe projectile hasn't reached the target yet. Whereas with Valla's, the strafe projectile might be, you know, already mid-flight hitting the next target behind it. And so you might be a smidge faster at spawning the next projectile after the internal cooldown expires. Which actually would mean that it might even be optimal to set breakpoints. In other words, use a specific breakpoint for strafe, so stack attack speed to the point where you hit that internal cooldown perfectly, if we can figure out what the exact internal cooldown is, in which case then Valla's should provide absolutely no benefit if you're going to optimally hit a target the instant the internal cooldown expires, kind of thing.
Yeah, but it's like, what is the big benefit you're going to receive from that?
Yeah, you're not going to receive a big benefit. You'll receive, like I said, a small benefit of the arrows being spawned. You know, let's say that the internal cooldown, just for the sake of argument, is 0.2. So every fifth of a second, let's just for the sake of argument, you are allowed to spawn a primary when you hit a target. Okay, and let's say that you're strafing, and I mean, let's say you're using 2 attacks per second, right? And so that means you fire a projectile. It should be 8 times per second, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's say, so therefore, you're firing a projectile 8 times per second. So that's every 12.5 seconds. So, in other words, every other strafe hit will spawn a projectile, right? Because the first one will hit too soon, right? Because it won't be within the internal cooldown. But then the next one will spawn it. So it's like every other strafe hit would spawn. I mean, assuming that we're not moving with respect to the target's distance, you know, and the strafe is hitting the same target. So, I mean, there's some assumptions here, right? If you're moving around a lot, and then sometimes the strafe target, you know, is closer, so the travel time for the projectile is less. There's a lot of things at play here. But if we assume just that, you know, you're attacking every time you attack, let's say you're in melee range, so every time you attack that frame, you know, the monster will get hit. And so if the breakpoint is 0.2 and your skill, I mean, you're hitting every 0.125, then you're gonna spawn it every other attack, so that, in other words, you're gonna have only 4 attacks per second, effectively. Or sorry, 4 primaries per second, instead of 5, which would be the theoretical maximum. I mean, again, assuming, you know, the 0.2 thing, but I mean, we don't know exactly what it is. If that's the case, then, you know, Valla's could help out in that, you know, you're hitting a target at the 0.2 mark, right? Meaning an earlier strafe hit, the second strafe hit that you fired, might pierce and then hit a target that's like 0.075 seconds away, such that you hit it right on that, or earlier than the third hit that you shoot, right? Because the first strafe hit spawns it, the second one doesn't, and the third one would, and the fourth one wouldn't. But if the second one pierced instead, that second one could theoretically proc it if it traveled further and then hit that target. Just as so that's like my best working guess as to what Valla's is doing. It's allowing you to hit the breakpoint a little bit more reliable, or not the breakpoint, but it's letting you hit the internal cooldown more reliably. Now, conversely, if you increase your attack speed, this is something we need to test. If you increase your attack speed to 2.5 a second, right? That means you are firing 10 projectiles per second. Right? No, hold on. 2.5 attacks per second Yeah, you would fire 10 projectiles per second. That means every 10th of a second is a strafe projectile, which, in other words, should be exactly at the breakpoint, in which case you would spawn it every single hit, or every other hit. So therefore, Vallas wouldn't help you, because you're already going to be like perfectly tuned with that breakpoint. So that's why I think one of the possibilities could be an issue with breakpoints with internal cooldown, where you can avoid having to use Vallas if you set your strafe attack speed just right. You know, that such that you're not leaving any gap between when the internal cooldown expires and that your projectile hits. That's what you want to minimize. The gap between the moment the internal cooldown is off cooldown and the next hit from any projectile or of any strafe projectile. So that's what you want to minimize. And so you can either minimize it by breakpoint adjustment or by hitting more targets with Vallas, in the sense that if there's a target in front of you and then there's a target behind it, and there's like 3 different opportunities to proc it, and whatever opportunity happens when the strafe projectile
Yeah, so
hits.
basically that's why I decided to make this video, like, so at least later, if you want to check the video and that is
Yeah,
recorded.
I mean, the tests in an actual environment are very, very hard to test, because, I mean, there's so many things going on. Enemies are spawning, or you're moving around. The number of targets you're hitting with strafe is not consistent, because even if there's like a cluster of stuff, strafe is hitting the cluster, but it's also shooting at things behind you. So, you know, you're not getting the optimal setup. So what I'm going to want to test with Dioxide is testing 3 targets in a line, spread out though. So not like melee distance between them like I was with my wolf, but rather 3 targets spread out in a line, like separated by, say, 20 yards each, and then Die would then strafe in place, and then we would see how many projectiles. And then that other one is then to test breakpoints, to see if it's, you know, if adjusting attack speed can make it so that you can hit that breakpoint, you know, more efficiently, such that your strafe projectiles per second is a multiple of the internal cooldown. Or actually, I should say that, sorry, the other way, the inverse. The seconds per strafe projectile, right, which, you know, so the amount of time is divisible by the internal cooldown. So that in that sense, so that it's you have it then optimal. But that's going to be hard to really test. Now, I mean, we already kind of know more or less where that internal cooldown should lie. If it's in the 0.2, 0.25, somewhere in that range, maybe even 0.167 or something. I mean, it could be a 1/5 of a second, it could be a 1/6 of a second, but it's somewhere in that ballpark. So we can adjust attack speed until we see it, by just having Dioxide or somebody have different pieces with attack speed, and then just adding Paragon points one by one until he hits that, you know, until he starts seeing, oh, okay, at this breakpoint we're getting 5 projectiles per second, and then you remove 1 attack speed, you're getting 4 or something like that.
So the first run I did here, I finished in it was around 10 minutes sharp. I died once because
Yeah, I
of
saw you
lag.
died from Molten. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lag.
And
I
10
wasn't
minutes
on
is a
that
bit long
position.
though, right? For a 120?
I mean, I'm not running my setup, you know, my normal setup. Like, I'm using with a quiver. I'm not dual wielding.
Yeah, I mean, but even with a quiver, it should, I mean, I don't know your gear exactly, but I would have felt a 120 should have gone like maybe closer to, not maybe 5 minutes is what Die can do, but I was thinking like 7, maybe 8 tops.
Oh yeah. But I'm not using the range. I'm using the DMKT's build. You know, a
So
little
you're,
tankier.
yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, that's kind of what I use. I use Fortress, but
Yeah. So I'm just you know, I'm comparing like weapon to weapon. Like
yeah, I
both
mean,
they have the same damage because both are primal.
yeah, I
And
understand that you're comparing exactly the same DPS, but the problem is Greater Rift variance is so large, and I mean so large. Like the best GR and the worst GR are something like, you know, in other words, being able to clear a GR versus not being, I mean, it can be somewhere like 10 GRs difference in the sense that some of them, I mean, or in terms of your clear speeds, with the perfect GR and the worst possible GR, it can be anywhere from, 5 minutes to 10 minutes, I mean, I don't know exactly how, I mean, I guess with some builds, it's maybe like plus or minus 2 minutes. Like I've seen Dioxide do sub 5-minute runs, and then some he had to do 7-minute runs. So it can be like 4 to 7 minutes. But
there's a lot of variables for sure. But for example, we at least can see numbers like how much because like the first claim is that Valla's is actually giving more damage, right?
Yeah, that one has already been disproven.
So with this, we are going and having both weapons with the same DPS.
Yeah, we've already disproved that it's increasing the physical damage of the arrow. It's, I mean, the actual damage of the arrow. It's not the only thing that Woody Joe and everybody else was like finding is that you get more projectiles, and so that's what Dioxide and I are going to test is the number of projectiles, which of course is really, really hard to see in a GR setting. I mean, this is the whole point of a controlled test environment. That we
but it's
count the number of procs.
But you also agree with me, like Wudijo, he did his testing, right?
Yeah.
But on the video he posted yesterday.
He did one with the zombies.
But he didn't show the testing. Like he showed just
he just showed an abbreviation of abbreviated testing.
Exactly.
Because he said it was 6 hours.
Yeah, but anyways, it still falls on that department, like okay, so it feels.
Yeah, I understand that. Now, like I said on the forums, I mean, on the forums I said, I'm willing to change my opinion once there's sufficient data. Obviously, and I told people I still haven't accepted that Valla's is actually superior. I'm just saying that the notion has actually been isolated somewhat. That it's not that Valla's is magically, increasing. It's increasing the number of projectiles specifically. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for understanding the internal cooldown of the GOD 4-piece and understanding, in other words, can you adjust the cooldown by changing attack speed? We don't think so. I mean, as from the PTR, we showed that attack speed didn't seem to matter, but attack speed might matter in terms of breakpoints for hitting that cooldown more efficiently. So that's something we want to test.
Yeah, but anyways, I decided to do this runs because since there's no proof about the damage, we're gonna have some because
we did prove the damage. That's what we proved with Dioxide. We showed that the damage per arrow does not change at all. The number of pierces did not change. The damage, I mean, we did those tests in the Scorched Chapel where I was standing there with my wolf, or I was standing there, and we showed that there was no, there was a little bit of variance because of just crit chances and things like that. But the damage of the arrow, each pierce with Valla's or each pierce with Dawn had the same, 0.7 multiplier additive, due to the devouring arrow. So we showed that the arrow damage did not change. The only thing that is gonna change is the number of arrows total.
Yeah, I'm having a little lag here. But anyways,
I mean, it's okay to test. I mean, I'm not gonna stop you from testing, right? It's your game, your character. You do what you want.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's not gonna be very helpful at the moment because that's not the type of testing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, for example, for those who are still on the placebo effect, at least you have proof of gameplay,
I mean, you have something to see. That
it's not like for example, I've seen people complaining even of the testing you did. You posted the results and stuff. Oh, but why didn't you do like this and this? And then you said if you pay me 6 figures.
Yeah, well, I mean, I told them that as kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of comment. I mean, it was really just to say I don't have time to just test all day, test thousands of different setups and everything. I mean, I'm not a quality assurance tester, okay? So I can't, be expected to spend all my time testing something, but I just wanted to caution the, people against believing something that just because people are doing something and then they get results with it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the cause of the results that they're getting.
Yeah,
And
so this run is going a bit faster.
With Vallas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Than the previous
Well,
one.
I mean,
The previous one was 10 minutes. This one,
yeah,
I believe it's gonna end up on 7 to 8 minutes, I guess.
Okay, well then keep. I mean, I guess you can keep going back and forth, but I mean, you're gonna need a very large sample size due to the very large GR variance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I mean by like sample size of hundreds of GRs.
No, I'm not gonna do that, but like.
Yeah, I know that's the problem. I mean, like, the GRs vary so much that just having, you know, saying, oh, anecdotally, yeah, this one went faster, this one went slower. I mean, the bottom line is we want to know the why. Like, we want to know, be able to isolate it, show the effect in a controlled environment, and say, this is what it's doing, this is how much it's helping, this is what you can do to capitalize on it. And from there on, we can then recommend Vallas for, oh, because it does this effect, and this is how much gain you're getting from Vallas. For example, if you're too squishy, you might still want to consider Fortress Ballista, because the benefit from Vallas might not even be that strong. I mean, we want to be able to like tell, you know, these types of things.
Yeah, for sure, but like again, this is only for those. For example, when you do the testing and you post, then people go, oh, but in game actually it does feel that Vallas is doing more damage and because this testing you did on Brawl, and it's a different environment on.
Yeah, but it's much more controlled and it's still valid. I mean, the fact that players are, I mean, are behave like monsters in the sense that you hit a player, it procs. I mean, the game isn't changed in the Scorched Chapel. The game mechanics still, you know, it copies all the game mechanics in and out of the Scorched Chapel. So what works in the Scorched Chapel works outside. But yeah, that's really what we want to get to the bottom of. But I mean, yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, your tests are fine. I mean, it's just that it's going to be anecdotal evidence unless you get a very large sample size.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you won't need as big a sample size if the variance is I mean, if the effect is extremely large. Like if you're saying, oh, this is making it run, you know, twice as fast versus, you know, and it's a consistent twice as fast, not like
but you
twice
also,
as fast.
Yeah, but you also know that it is because of the variance of the GR. So like if
I know that's the thing. We need to.
Yeah, if the claims are true for the DPS of Valla's Bequest, then I should be able to do this in half of the time. You know?
Yeah, if it is double the power, well, it's not necessarily half the time, but yeah, it's something. It would be a fraction of the time, and it would be a consistent fraction of the time.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with statistics. When you're trying to show, when the null hypothesis that you're trying to disprove, that when you're trying to show the effect between two very similar things, right? So that, you know, the probability, for example, like proving that a coin, let's say flipping a coin, proving that a coin is fraudulent, right?
Mm-hmm.
If the coin is, I mean, if the coin is a 100% coin,
I got the
like
same
a two-sided, okay, yeah. If you get a two-sided coin, it's much quicker to prove that it's a fraudulent coin, rather than if you get a coin that's 51-49, right? It's 51% heads, 49% tails. Proving that that's actually a fraudulent coin is going to take a lot of trials, versus proving a 100%, you know, like zero, like a, you know, two-sided coin is fraudulent. Proving that statistically is going to be much easier. So the closer the effects, like if Valla's effect is really, really, really minor, the number of tests you would need is going to grow astronomically.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you on that 100%. But this is more, like I said, is just like people are claiming that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, that's what I said. Like you can do the tests, but what I'm looking for specifically is going to be a controlled test, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. But this, you know, like if someone says, oh, but this control environment doesn't work because in game is
Well,
different and stuff.
then it's not valid. I mean, if something cannot be tested in a control environment, then it cannot exist, really. I mean, this is the whole deal with psychics and astrologers and, you know, any pseudoscience you can think of. The fact that anytime they claim something and then they say, oh, it doesn't work because today the energy is not high enough, or today the stars are not quite aligned, or today, you know, they'll find some excuse to why their magical ability doesn't work in a controlled test. And
Oh,
so, I mean,
so
there has to be, if there is an effect, there has to be some provable way to show it. That's what I'm saying.
yeah. So the first run was 10 minutes and something. The second run was 9 minutes and 52. So
Okay.
pretty close,
They're
actually.
close. Yeah, they're very close. That's what I mean. Like, if there is an effect with Vallas, which there could be, I'm not discounting it. The issue is that it may be a very small effect. In that, if it is such a small effect, the number of GRs required to isolate the effects to show that it's not a fluke, it's not due to GR variance, but really there is a statistical correlation between it.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of data that you would need is tremendous. Is the problem? That's really the issue. That the smaller the effect, the more data you need to prove its existence.
Yeah, because it's just this light change, right?
Yeah. And however, in a controlled environment, it's a lot easier to prove its existence. Is the whole point.
If it is something minor, if it is something
Yeah.
bigger, like people were
Oh yeah, if
claiming
it's something
that it
big,
gives,
then we wouldn't be having this discussion. If
Yeah.
it was so obviously noticeable, then
Yeah, but
there
like,
would be no discussion.
even-
Everybody would have already been using it.
like even your friend, he claimed that on Rift Guardian, he was able to melt down the Rift Guardian.
Yeah,
So-
that one I didn't buy so much because, I mean, the Rift Guardian it's a single target. It's not something that, because even Vallas against the Rift Guardian, even though you pierce, it's not going to hit it more than once. The pierce is going to hit it exactly once, and even though it's, let's say, like Gome or you know, Voracity, I mean, it's like some fat target. The projectile, strafe projectile, has exactly one hitbox. It either hits or it doesn't. And so if it hits, it you know, it can't hit it more than once. Like, there are some skills that can, like ball lightning can hit multiple times, and of course bigger targets get hit more times.
Yeah.
But strafe isn't one of those.
I love the ball lightning.
Oh yeah, that would have been fun, right? If they
Yeah.
Included that as a strafe generator.
Oh, can you imagine him traveling at 30% of the speed?
Oh, oh yeah, back in doing it in a missile dampening when it's
Yeah.
like traveling at 5%. I don't remember what missile dampening does. I don't know if it's 75% reduction or 80% reduction, but yeah, I mean, missile dampening, slow ball with it's just, you get stacks of these things. You can get like 30 ball lightnings on this inside the dampening field, and then it's just, yeah, lag fest with the area damage procs.
Yeah, and several procs at the same time. Processor.
Yeah, that's the
likes
thing. It hit. Yeah, it zaps. I don't remember if it's like 3 targets at a time, and then you have like 30 of them, and then each of those is proccing area damage. It can be a pretty big mess. Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems actually with doing 2 GOD Demon Hunters. The lag can get, you know, way too bad. The servers are not designed for it.
Oh yeah, also there was the death on the first run I did. So
Yeah.
if I didn't die, it would
It might have been
a
around
little-
the same, yeah.
Yeah, around
What
the
is
same.
you using Vallas again, or are you using?
No, I'm doing 3 runs with Dawn, and then I'm gonna do 3 runs with Valla.
So this is still Dawn?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's the 3rd run. And then the next one I'll switch to Valla's. You see how nice the bar helps procking Ass of Johan?
I mean, I haven't actually. I don't have a good S of Johann, so I've never actually tried it. I just use my follower, and since I have a good flavor of time, I just use flavor of time. Oh, there's somebody who posted their Gear of Dreadlocks build. Yeah, they're gonna say, yeah, like, wait, what? They recommend Captain Crimson. Oh god, this is already a night. This is already bad. With Wajani? What the hell? Why are they even bothering with rapid fire? This guy has no idea what he's doing.
Posted on the forums?
It's on the Demon Hunter forums.
Oh my god.
If there was a downvote button, I would downvote it. I'm tempted just to write something in here. It's like, I mean, I don't like to like slam people. You know, some people like to, you know, share ideas, and that's a good thing. But I don't want people to follow this guy's bad advice. Is the thing. Like, some of the things he suggests are good. You know, diamonds and gear. Yeah, that's good. But yeah, like
diamonds and
gear. Yeah, like I mean that's about it. Like he's using rapid fire support. What? Strafe, icy trail shot. Why does he have rapid fire? I mean this is garbage. Simply pocket damage if I need it. But rapid fire doesn't spawn primaries. The whole set is about primaries, and rapid fire does nothing. Okay, yeah. I really need to write something about this.
This run is gonna be a little worse.
I mean, you did get a trash level. I don't know why you are still there. I would have just pushed forward and just skipped to the next floor.
I'm trying to make, you know, consistent. Oh, I died.
Okay.
Make it consistent so like I'm not skipping too much.
Okay, stuff. I know, but it's a pretty bad floor.
Oh, the other one is here, so let's go. Oh, and by the way, you said that your clears on 120 are better with this build. I have only 74 area damage.
What do you mean?
I have only 74 area damage.
Yeah.
I'm not even on 100.
I mean, the thing is, area damage scales really well with the build. And of course, density. You know, obviously, area damage by itself doesn't do anything. You need area damage with a lot of targets.
Yeah. For this build, I agree with you totally. Like, but for Dice build, it has, believe it or not, it has a huge difference on clearing. It's like you clear trash faster, but you can also clear the elites faster. Only problem, you're squishier.
Yeah, I mean, you want a lot of area damage because of the way the Devouring Arrow scales. I mean, whether it's Dai's build or any other build with the Devouring Arrow setup, you just want a lot of area damage and density. Now, the thing with Dai's build is you can't just fire, you know, at density. You have to spend some time entangling it, and that is where, you know, yeah, you're basically trading off time you're firing Devouring Arrow for time where you're kind of debuffing everything to take double damage. And then, of course, the trash will die almost instantly if it's entangled with a Devouring Arrow. So I don't know if the area damage will help as much because of that. You're going to kill the trash way too fast.
It does. I mean, like,
it helps, but in other words, you still need trash is the thing.
Yeah, the only thing I'm not sure, it's like, does entangling shot damage is like you have to have like at least two mobs to count?
No, you can proc it on a boss. You can proc it. It just doesn't show any chain, but it does affect the damage.
Okay, because I wasn't sure. Like sometimes it feels like it's not actually giving the damage buff.
Yeah, there's something that Dai was saying that there was some bug with it that he said he was going to make a video that sometimes it doesn't tangle or something, and I don't know. But it should work on single target. I'm just not a fan of the dual generator setups. They require a lot more focus and a lot more like planning and positioning and timing. Like, okay, I did, you know, 4 or 5. I did 5 hungering arrows. I need to prepare to do an entangle shot, and then I need to like switch back to hungering arrow because if not, I lose damage. And so you kind of have to manually switch back and forth a lot, and doing it in a consistent way is rather difficult.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, I know you're kind of a, you already said this, that you're kind of a lazy, so
Yeah.
definitely you like more lazy builds, but...
I mean, I do pretty well with them.
Yeah, so, yeah, whereas, for example, for me, I like the challenge, like, Whirlwind Barb, man, I already slept on the chair twice playing that. Just so you know, like, because
well, I mean, I played it for pushing. You can't play it by just spin to win. I mean, for pushing, you have to spend time. You know, where to ground stomp, where to use the ancient spear. I mean, sure, the 3 of the skills are autocast, right? I mean, the Wrath of the Berserker is on autocast. Battle Rage, you just cast it once every few minutes. And what's the other skill? One other skill. And the other skills. Wrath of the Berserker, Battle Rage, and then you use let's see, Ancient Spear, Ground Stomp, Furious. No, you don't use Furious Charge. Ancient Spear, Ground Stomp, Whirlwind. Oh yeah, Rend. So yeah, and actually yeah, Whirlwind you don't have. You just hold down Whirlwind. So you hold down Whirlwind and you just auto cast Wrath of the Berserker, and you occasionally hit what is it called? Battle Rage. But so that 3 of the skills are practically free. But then you have to manually use ground stomp in the right places. You have to manually rend every other cycle, and then you also have to manually use ancient spear to try and line up stuff without over pulling it. Because if you over pull it, as you know, it gets immune.
Yeah. So this run was 10 minutes and 28.
Okay.
So they're pretty much close to it. Like the first one I did, I died, and it was over 10 minutes. This one I died, it was over 10 minutes.
Yeah,
And
I mean, you got bad floors, but
yeah,
I mean, go ahead and try it with Vallas. I mean, if you get something sub 7, then I'll be like, okay, that's a pretty big difference. But if it's 9 to 10 or something like that, then it's going to be like, even if it's like 850, yeah, it may be good, but it's still kind of on the close end that you would need a lot more tests to really see it.
yeah. But so far, let's say even with all the variants that you can have on a GR and stuff like that, all the 3 runs were kind of a pretty similar and consistent in a way. You know, like the timing is not that. I mean, there's not a huge gap in time for clearing, so it is kind of a consistent. But let's see. I'm gonna pee fast, and then I'll switch to Valla's Bequest. Be right back. All right, and I'm back.
Oh, that was fast.
Well, I mean, I don't want to leave you waiting here.
I mean, it's up to you. Just take your time. I mean, there's nobody watching. It's just us.
Yeah, but like I'm leaving this recorded, so Like
Yeah, I mean, you
let's
can
say.
record with OBS actually. I don't know if you know. You can
Mm-hmm.
record without streaming.
Yeah, but uploading to YouTube sucks, and like just transferring from here is much faster. That's why I decided.
Okay, well, that's what I did actually for my videos.
Yeah.
I did recording with OBS.
So, anyways, just to go through. So, as you can see, my Dawn, it had Hatred Regen, 150%, 10% damage. The base damage is
Yeah,
the same as the other one.
I'm gonna adjust your Paragon.
Yeah, and then for this one, I'm gonna adjust my Paragon just because of the augment I have.
So
So
just
that's
add 6 Paragon points.
yeah. I add six. Yeah, I removed it six Paragons, but I leveled up, so there's seven now. But anyways, so actually, let me put an emerald here so everybody can see. My sheet damage is for mil 420, 190.
And what do you have cubed?
What do I have cubed here for Dawn? I use the Dawn
Okay,
to
so
not
so that way you
change
don't have to change it. Okay.
exactly. Depth figures and convention of elements. So for Valla's Bequest, I'm just gonna put it here. You see my sheet damage is 450.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I'm
I mean
gonna
the sheet damage won't change. I mean, we just got to put the 6 dex points in there, and it should be exactly the same.
and it's
But I mean
exactly
that
the same.
even without it, the dex difference is nothing. I mean,
Yeah,
it
but
literally is nothing.
it's like it's a comparison. So let's do the full thing. Like
Yeah,
both
I mean
weapons are
you're
the same.
basically trying to compare two very random processes, and then you're just like I mean, not even slightly. It's like, it's. I mean, it's not even a drop in the bucket. Is how minimal 6 dex is. But
Yeah,
I mean,
but
go
like
ahead.
it's
Just
just to
try it.
be as fair as we can be.
Yeah, I mean, as fair as you can. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand that, but I mean, I'm just saying that the variance of the GR is so astronomical in comparison to 6 dexterity difference. But
Yeah, and also I get a freaking bad map right away.
okay, well,
So.
that makes it fair. I mean, you did a crappy map just now. So, anyways, I'm gonna write something on the forum, so I'm not gonna talk too much right now.
No problem. I'm just gonna keep playing here and doing what I'm doing. It's funny also because I told Daya I was going to get online live and stuff. I thought he was going to check it out.
So how's the run going so far?
Well, it's gonna change a little bit the result. I got a missile dampening, and there was another elite together.
Okay, well, those are pretty rare, and like I've mentioned on the forums, those are. I even recommended. I mean, as I know everybody hates nerfs, right? But I even told them like I would be okay with a nerf trade where they nerf missile dampening so that it's not a joke, but then at the same time they nerf wallers so that they're not like a skip, you know? Because
Yeah, but I
it's
mean,
really
like,
annoying.
each elite effects, for some builds, they have, some strengths and some, problems, let's say.
Yeah, but I mean, they shouldn't be a factor of 10 in kill speed difference, you know? Like, I understand if, like, oh, okay, you can kill this thing maybe 20% faster or something, but if it's like 1,000% or more, actually, in the case of missile dampening, like, even if it's a juggernaut, or like, it's just like 1,000, it's more than 1,000% difference. Like, it is, maybe 20 times, so 2,000% difference in kill speed, which is, I mean, that's just a gimmick at that point. I mean, I can understand, 20, 30% if it's easier, or 30% slower if it's harder, but when you have to deal with a multiplier in the double digits for the kill speed difference, that's just, like you're fishing for that at that point, which is, I mean, could you imagine the worst case scenario in the sense that there was a boss that was missile dampening? Like, how stupid that would be. Like, oh, okay, well, it looks like the only way to get on the leaderboard is if you fish for that one boss. If you don't get that boss, you just teleport back to town. You're not going to clear it, but
Yeah.
if you get that boss, you have
Uh-huh.
30 seconds left on the clock, and the boss spawns. You get the boss, you're like, GG, I'm going to kill it in 20 seconds.
Yeah, then just think about this. Then they add as a boss, Sokar, the Key Warden.
Yeah, they add the boss like a
And
dude
then
dervish, and you're like, okay, that's just impossible.
And it is dampening, but it reflects
Yeah.
your projectile.
Yeah, yeah, I know, that's the thing. Like, if they added, an unkillable monster, right? Impale would have the same problem. So, like, for some builds, that boss would be just completely unkillable, and then for other builds, missile dampening, it would be a complete joke.
Another one.
You got another missile dampening. Dude, you're so lucky on this run.
Well, this is gonna change the results for sure.
Yeah, although you'll see, I mean, this one, you can always discard outliers if they're, like, really, really far outliers. I mean, you can always, we'll see. Like, of course, if the average is if it's due to this one outlier kind of thing, you can quickly discount it.
Yeah, I'll do 4 runs with Valla's Bequest. Just
yeah, no, just do the runs and then average them. It's fine. But then you'll just see if there's an outlier, like if that's not a common thing. Anyways, I'm gonna keep writing about why this guy's build sucks really bad.
You're gonna piss people off.
No, I'm gonna basically no. I'm not gonna say it sucks. I'm just gonna list all the problems with it without saying it sucks. And then when he sees that this list is kind of long and all the problems are actually pretty major, then yeah, I think he'll probably say, oh. Hopefully he'll like, because I don't want like people to spread bad information is the thing. Like, I don't mind if people come up with new ideas provided they have some merit. But it looks like this guy just, wrote down some skills on paper and said, oh, okay, there's this item that buffs this, and there's that item that buffs that, without actually understanding that, oh, that set does nothing for that ability.
Okay, so the first run is gonna end at probably 8 minutes.
Okay, so that's a bit fast.
It's a bit fast, but I got 2 missile dampenings.
Any conduit or power?
Yeah, but I also got on some of the Dawn ones.
Oh, okay.
But just the conduit, not power.
Okay. Well, you're not using flavor, so it's not really that major, but...
No.
Okay, what was the time? You said 8 minutes.
Yeah, let me see on the stream, actually, because I closed very fast. 7 minutes and 32.
Okay, so 7.5. Alright, that's pretty fast, but that could very well be a fluke.
Yeah, none of the other runs I got a missile dampening, let alone 2. So we're gonna see
Yeah,
about the.
it's something like a 5% chance of missile dampening, and it's like pretty rare that you got 2 in one run.
Yeah, but we're gonna see on the next ones just to. See, and I also got a conduit on this one.
I mean, the other thing you could have done to try and make everything more normalized is just skip all pylons.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I only got the same pylons I got before. Like, there was one run that I had...
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, like, if you're trying to do a like, exact... I mean, you were already trying to make it as normalized as possible, but, like, skipping every pylon would already, you know, also help with that, too.
I mean, if that's needed, I can do it again, you know, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, this is, I guess, just you testing just to see, but, you know, like, there needs to be a, I mean, even if you do show it that, you know, Valla's is just that much better, there needs to be a way to prove it, is the thing. And needs to be, we need to know why, and we need to be able to replicate it, not by just, oh, maybe it's like it only works in GRs or something. Like, we need to know exactly what is triggering it and how to, you know, control it is the thing. That's the whole point of why we need to do testing.
That's also the purpose of this video. Like,
well, this video is just showing if the effect exists or not. This video is not showing what is it doing.
Well, if you analyze better, like, if it is doing something.
Yeah, but I mean, there's...
You can probably...
I mean, I don't have an AI that's going to go through frame by frame and analyze, you know, patterns of patterns, like for, you know, deep learning analysis and machine learning. You know, like, writing an entire script to do machine learning on something like this would be an incredibly difficult task. Which would take... There, you would hire a team and have to pay them 6-figure salaries to do this. And so, and obviously Blizzard would, you know, they would never ever pay some like team to analyze some weird bug that they could just easily fix by fixing the way that they coded the 4-piece. They should just make it so that Strafe fires a primary every 0.2 seconds. Done. Like, you don't even have to have a target nearby, just fires a primary at a random target if available every 0.2 seconds, period. No, like, no adjustment of speed, no adjustment of on hit or proc or anything, just straight up every 1/5 of a second fires a primary. End of story. Like, that would fix the problem completely. But of course they didn't code it. I mean, the people who coded it didn't think probably that far ahead.
And this run is also going to be faster.
Okay. Well, just keep
Better
testing.
mobs,
I mean, just...
yeah, better mobs, more open map.
I mean, just keep going. You know, I mean, do as much as you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is only the second run, so if the third one is true, then
I mean, that's starting to show a correlation, but it's still not significant with only 3 runs of each.
yeah.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like, you're starting to show a correlation, which is good, but it's still not significant. Unless you got... If you can keep that correlation, like 8 minutes versus 10 minutes for like 10 runs of each, then maybe there's starting to be something a little bit. But you would have to do at least 10 runs of each. And have that correlation where it's like consistently 10 minutes, consistently 8 minutes. Like, if you can get that 2-minute difference, like, very, very consistently, then...
Yeah, to replicate.
Yeah. But as soon as there's some, like, very good Dawn runs or some very bad Valla's runs, it's gonna be kind of washed.
No, but I mean, like...
then again, I mean, maybe Dawn is really doing it. I mean, we'll see it.
Yeah, if it is the case, like, if these 3 runs with the Vallas goes actually faster than the Dawn, I'm gonna switch back to Dawn and I'm gonna do 2 runs with the Dawn and 2 more runs with the Vallas.
Yeah, or you don't even need to do 2. You can just do 1 and 1. I mean, as long as you just keep them separate, it doesn't matter that you do them 2 in a row or 1 in a row. I mean, all that matters is that you collect more data. And that you're playing roughly the same style the whole time. But yeah, this one looks like it's going to be 7 minutes or something.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like you're probably around the 7-minute mark because the bar isn't even halfway there.
How does the health pool from Perdition compares to...
I don't know the health pools of all the targets, so I can't really say. I don't memorize them. But yeah, you did it in 7:19. That's a little faster than the last one.
Yeah, the other one was 7:23, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed something different on this boss, actually. Kind of when I had the cold cycle, it was actually going kind of faster, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, well, that we would have to see the frame by frame, you know, like, and how many seconds it took, and how fast how much damage you did, and how much health the monster had, and I mean, and the fact that there were no walls there, so the pierces could go to max pierce. Additionally, what Dia wanted to test also is the distance. What's the optimal distance to be? Like, is it in melee range or is it like max range?
I almost did a boo-boo here. Okay, then plus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'll finish. Let's see if we have the same DPS. Nope. It was 420. One more. All right.
Not ready yet.
Let's run with Vallas, and then let's see if this gets through. Already a good map. Yeah, this run is gonna be probably a little bit slower because, you know, wallers. First, believe it or not, this is the first time on the game I think I got wallers since I started running.
Boom. I just listed the 8 major problems with this guy's build. So I told him, number 1, rapid fire is not buffed by GOD, so you should drop it. 2, vault isn't necessary since you get a lot of mobility with strafe. Vengeance, Dark Heart, and Shadow Power Gloom are better than what he was proposing, which was side cannons and Will of Darkness. Captain Crimson is bad because you need Ring of Royal Grandeur and a belt slot, and you lose out on Hunter's Wrath or Death Diggers in the cube, which is a huge damage loss. Next, since he's using bolas, he's not using Leonine or the Duffel. So what? Endless Walk set is not ideal because he's wasting an amulet slot. He could use Unity and or Elusive Ring for equal or greater amount of toughness on a single ring slot, and then have a free amulet slot. Nemesis Bracers aren't optimal because if he's playing for hardcore, which is what he said, he wants more toughness, and he should be using Wraps of Clarity. And then lastly, he's using 2 okay gems, but he's using the Gizzard, and I'm like, you know, you don't want the Gizzard. Instead, you should try Taeguk for toughness and some damage, or
is he actually using strafe?
Well, he has strafe and rapid fire on his skill
Oh my god.
Yeah, like, and he's using Sin Seekers with Wojani, and I'm like, oh, dude, it's like did you not read the 6-piece bonus that it's only for like primaries? And then he said, I did online research to find others' thoughts and realized once I started my build that there were good and bad suggestions. Good equals strafe is for movement. Bad equals the tune is weak. Wrong! And I'm like, I don't know where you searched, but there are good guys here. Good guys out there, such as Dioxide's recommendations thread in this very forum, and I linked his GOD6 guide thread. I'm like, I don't know where this guy was smoking to get his ideas from the celestial beings that, you know, whispered it into his ear after he was high on, I don't know, hashish or something.
A smoking screen.
Smoking some screens.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a couple of viewers now. You got another TV viewer, and you've got Mind of Lurk. Okay, so it's a couple lurkers. So, yeah, there's always some people watching, I guess.
I mean, I've made this channel before, like, I plan to stream and stuff like that, but then I was like, you know what, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's better also, like, consolidating our clan into one streamer that's, like, die, and then he can then...
No, I mean, this channel I have since, long time ago, you know? Like, I was thinking of, you know, streaming back then. Then I did some, but then you know what, forget it. It's like, it's pretty tough. Like, for example, I also smoke, so then I would probably end up smoking on the screen, and then all of a sudden you have kids and whatever, and you know,
yeah.
that's not
I mean,
a good
with you
role
and
model.
family and dogs, and yeah, I mean,
yeah.
There's too many things that real life distractions that, I mean, I call them distractions, but they're important, like in the sense that if something happened with your dogs or whatever, I would 100% understand that you have to cut the stream because there's something, you know, the dog needs to go to the vet, or one of the children has some issue, or you know, like in real life priorities is the point.
Yeah. Like, actually this week my cat died.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she was 19 years old. I mean, it
okay,
was expected.
That's kind of old for a cat, but
yeah.
alright.
It was
What
expected.
the hell?
She was doing really bad, actually.
One of the two people that liked this guy's post was Baradia. I'm gonna ask Baradia, what the hell were you smoking when you liked this guy's post? Did you read his post? Like, did you read that this guy is like? I mean, he says, first, I'm doing this with a hardcore player, so pro-life is a necessity. I'm like, I wouldn't have used those words, pro-life. I mean, you do realize that, I don't know if English is this guy's first language, but, I mean, that's kind of a, it's kind of a controversial topic in America. I mean, most younger people are probably pro-choice, but, I mean, it is a hot topic that some people try to avoid because it's one of those controversial American topics that, you know, there's always going to be somebody who's very adamant about one side or the other. And
what does that mean? Pro-life and stuff?
Relating to abortion.
Oh.
Should abortion be? I mean, the thing is that a lot of the pro-life people believe that pro-choice people want babies and fetuses to die, and that's not what pro-choice means. Pro-choice means literally that. It's like they want women to have the choice, you know, based on, and of course they make informed decisions on their own, but they don't want the government to have to make that choice for them. And so that's what pro-choice means, not pro-death. Because some people will say the opposite of pro-life is pro-death. Why do you want babies and fetuses to die? Like, that's not pro-choice or pro-death. But anyways.
Okay. So
I don't want to flood your stream with lots of controversial topics, so I'll stop here.
Oh, I mean that's.
What time was this?
This one was probably 9 minutes and something.
With Dawn or Valla's?
With Valla's. This is the last run with Valla's.
Okay, so it's still okay. So you had a couple of good runs, and then now you have a 9-minute run. Okay, and now try again with Dawn.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna do one more with Dawn and then one more with Valla's. Let's see the time now.
I mean, right now it shows there's a correlation. That's true. There's a correlation that Valla's is better. I'm gonna agree with that, but statistically, it's not a statistically significant correlation yet.
And also, it's very few testing to have a very precise result.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not like within a certain number of standard deviations or sigma is what they say. How much, if you've proven something statistically within 3 sigma or 5 sigma, it basically is saying what is the probability that this happened by a fluke. And if they say 3 sigma, then it's a less than a 1% chance that this happened as a fluke. Or I think it's like less than a 0.3% chance that this happened as a fluke. And 5 sigmas, less than a 0.00 something % chance that it happened by fluke.
Okay.
So the idea is to get, if you can prove something within like 5 sigma, that you know really shows that it wasn't a fluke. But for your case, that requires a lot of data.
Yeah. So let's.
But I mean, keep going. You know, just I mean, I'm starting to think that there is an effect with Valla's. But I mean, the issue is, I like I said, I think it's something to do with getting more procs, is what a lot of people are saying, and it has probably something to do with the internal cooldown. But until Dai gets on, we can't really test. I don't know what he's up to today.
Okay, let me leave 7 points. Oh, I passed it, so I have to leave 8 points. Okay.
Yeah, where is Varadia? I want to tell him that I don't know why you're promoting bad Demon Hunter advice. Like, I'm okay with him promoting new Demon Hunters, but when they start spouting, you know, like bad ideas, like, you know, it's good to set them on the correct path before they spread it and to other clueless gamers. Because I mean, it's fine if somebody's clueless, but it's not fine if the blind start leading the blind. That, you know, whoever, you know, that you get clueless people that are, you know, ignorant, and then they just spread it to other ignorant people who don't know better.
Okay, so this run with Dawn is gonna be better. I got an open map,
first better
map.
floor. Okay, now Varadia liked my post. What the hell, Varadia?
Standing on the fence.
Yeah, like it's like, who do you agree with? Do you agree with this guy, or do you agree with me that I just like basically shut down his entire build? I told him the weapon he's using is bad, the quiver he's using is bad, half of the skills he's using are bad, and then the other half of the skills, the rune he's using is bad. Half the gems he's using is bad. His bracers are bad. He's using Captain Crimson, which is also a bad set for the build. and not buffing bolas, which should be the center point of his build. Like, I really just kind of said 80 to 90% of his build is bad. In a polite way. I didn't actually say anything. I didn't use the word bad. I just said, you know, I'm glad you're enjoying the new set, but there are some issues with your build. Like, I tried to be as polite as possible while still saying it's bad.
Oh, that's definitely. Just
like, I want
educated.
Yeah, I mean, being, you know, letting him off, you know, nice and polite, constructive criticism. You know, like, your build sucks, but I want to be polite and say, you know, I'm glad you enjoyed the set, and I'm glad you like to play it your way, but please don't ever tell anybody any advice ever. Oh, you got somebody in your some Twitch viewer saying, "Yo."
Yo, man, what's up? We're just doing some comparison tests here with Valla's Bequest and Dawn.
Yeah, and I'm just here for the commentary. I'm on his Discord, and I'm just chatting with him about things, and you know, chatting about what it could be doing with Vallas and things like that. So, if you're interested in the whole debate, okay, somebody. Oh, now he's asking about leveling fast to 70 within season.
Oh, I mean, leveling fast. It's kind of there's some stuff you can do. Like
yeah, there are some season guides.
Yeah, I would suggest you to go to YouTube and just watch Riker's video. He put up a video, I think it was yesterday, about it.
Yeah, Rex Antarax also streams a lot, and he also makes videos that are current with the season. If you're gonna level Demon Hunter, which is what I know, I would recommend making a seasonal character, and then immediately with that seasonal character doing the challenge rift of the week. That'll give you a cache of for your challenge rift.
Yeah, but you cannot do the challenge this week.
Yeah, don't do it yet. I mean, don't do the challenge this week. Save it for Friday once you've created a seasonal character, selected the seasonal character, then you can do it. And then you can go get Kanai's Cube, upgrade a rare dagger, so that you can get either a Carlay's Point or a, what's the other one? Lord Greenstone's Fan. And then depending on which one you get, that's going to be the skill you're going to use once you unlock it. So if you get a Carlay's Point, congratulations, you can immediately use it with Impale, and Impale will be your damage skill that you're going to use to level up really quick. And then you're going to cube it, by the way. That's the whole point of using it in Carlay's Cube, because you can't equip a level 70 item, but you can cube it. And then after that, I think at level 40 or is it 30, that you will want to craft a some random levels, like a level 70
two-hander
yellow weapon. Not two-hander, one-handed.
Oh yeah,
probably. Yeah, since you would probably be using the Carlays with Impale, I would say craft like a one-handed mace or something, or a one-handed sword or something, and then with that, then you would go to what is it called?
No, I mean, like a Carlays is going to be on cube, so you can actually use any bow.
Any melee. I mean, yeah, you can use any weapon, but I would say then you would roll the secondary to reduce level requirement, and then you can get that so that if you can get a reduced level requirement weapon.
Okay, so I'm not gonna pick it up the power because I didn't pick it up on any other GR. I didn't have a power.
Go ahead and pick it. You picked up every pylon.
No, I didn't pick every pylon.
So, you skipped power?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have any power on the other one.
Okay, well, just take it. If you skip pylons on other runs, it doesn't make sense to skip pylons now. It's part of the rift. So, but anyways, how about Necro? I'm not too familiar with Necro, so I would recommend, yeah, definitely following some guide. I believe instead of upgrading one-handed daggers like for Demon Hunter, I believe for Necro the option is to upgrade one-handed scythes, because I think 3 of the 4 one-handed scythes are actually really strong, either like Tragools, what are the other ones? Scythe of the Cycle. I think there's like one other that's actually decent. So anyways, I would look up either Riker leveling guide or Raxantrax leveling guide as for Necro. It can even be from last season, because the only major things that have changed are the set that they added, and then they changed some of the things with some of the skills. But for leveling, the leveling path hasn't really changed. So getting to 70 is roughly the same.
Yeah, getting to 70, the only part that is really sucks is when you reach like 50 to 60. That's the
yeah, although if you get
part.
a level reduced weapon, like a level 70 weapon with level reduction, so that you can use a level 70 weapon when you're like 40 or 50, then things are gonna go much smoother.
Yeah, but it's still hard. Like when you hit like 60 to 70, it is rough. It's not the most pleasant thing to do, but it has to be done.
Yeah, I mean there is some randomness involved, and depending on which, like I said, because with the challenge rift, I believe you get 35 death breaths. That gives you just enough death breaths to or it gives you enough death breaths to upgrade one rare to a legendary.
Yeah.
And then you can also cube it. So you only get one shot at it. So if you get, in the case of Necro, like I said, I think there's 3 out of 4 sides that are good. If you get the one that's bad, you're kind of, well, you know, better luck next time, or play with some friends and hopefully they got one of the good ones.
Yeah,
the best
character to level up this season is the H.
Yeah, I mean, Demon Hunter, like I said, with the, well, not only leveling up, but once you're 70, I mean, they have the Shadow set, which is usable even with just 2 pieces of the Shadow set. You're gonna be like in Torment 10 at least. So that's another option. Just leveling another class, and then once you're 70 and comfortable, then you can, you know, gather gear and then switch to the class you really want to play, which is, for example, Necro. He says, yeah, I breezed through 50 to 60 in a few minutes once he got rolled 70 weapon. It was just 60 to 70. It took way too long. Yet, play in a group and follow those guides more carefully, in the sense of, you know, what it is they're doing, in the sense of doing rifts or doing specific bounties, or looking for specific missions for bounties, because sometimes those are worth a lot of EXP, like doing kill streaks and things. I honestly don't mind spending more time, because I'm more of a casual player myself, so I'll get 70 a little bit later, but
so this run with the Dawn was 825, so it was slightly better.
Yeah, you're getting to the point where it's so yeah, just keep testing, and you know, yeah, like I expected, if the Vallas is better, it's not going to be that much better.
Should I do one more with the Dawn, or should I?
I mean, it's up to you. It doesn't really matter.
Okay, I'm gonna do one more with the Dawn then, and then I'll switch to Valla again, and then I'll do 2 runs with the Valla. Then we.
So now he's asking, when do you transition from Impale to GOD at the season start? I would say once you have 6-piece GOD set. The reason I say 6-piece and not 2-piece or 4-piece is the 2-piece Shadow set is a 61 times multiplier to all your damage, whereas the 2-piece GOD set is a 3 times multiplier. That's it, just 3. And then even with the 4-piece, where you start firing the primaries, it's still not going to be very strong. So you're going to want to keep using the Shadow 2-piece until you finish an entire 6-piece I mean, you might even get the 6-piece shadow set, in which case, keep using it until you finish the 6-piece GOD.
Yeah, also it's because like while you're still running with the Impale, you're already preparing your gems for the GOD6, so there's also that. Like a shadow, it's gonna be really good for leveling up gems really fast.
Yeah, so you're tempted to run DH. How about abilities and runes? What should you go for? I just linked you Dioxide's extensive post on the Demon Hunter forums, which covers basically all of the viable options and of course the skill runes. In short, just to give you an abbreviated version, you're going to want Hungering Arrow, Devouring Arrow as your primary source of damage. Specifically, and then the items you need, the most critical item, aside from, of course, the GOD 6-piece set, the most important item you need is the 9th series satchel. It's a quiver. Where's the link? You can't seem to see it. Oh, I guess, I don't know if Woog has it set that it blocks links from other players.
I don't have anything set.
Okay, well then maybe you can link it, Woog, because it maybe doesn't show for him because I'm not a mod on your channel.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna be able now because I cannot.
Yeah, if you go to the Demon Hunter forum, so it's us.forums.blizzard.com/en/d3. And you just go, if you just go to the forums, the Diablo 3 forums, just go to the Demon Hunter tab for that subforum, and then it should be the topic called In-Depth New DH Set GOD 6 Analysis. Tips and detailed setup options, and it's written by Dioxide, spelled D-I-E-O-X-I-D-E. So
you can do also this area. Can you just type the name of the thread? And
yeah,
then
maybe I can type.
He can Google.
Yeah,
and then it shows on the.
Just type the. Let me see if I can. Yeah, let me see what happens if I just type the. Okay, yeah. Here, I'll just type it. Oh no, you found it. All right. Okay. I was just gonna say, just type the title into Google, and it's the first hit. It's just In-Depth New DH Set GOD 6 Analysis. Tips and so yeah, the basic idea is Hungering Arrow is your key source of damage, primarily Devouring Arrow. You need the 9th series satchel. If you don't get a 9th series satchel, you can possibly run with other things like the Bhalla shot stuff, but a running duo at season start, will we be really behind the 4-man groups, or can we compete? You can still, clear. I mean, you should be okay. You're not gonna get rank 1. I mean, in sense of you're not gonna be the first to level 70 by a long shot. I mean, but you'll maybe be a little bit slower, but you'll be there. It depends on if you're trying to go for a conquest. Like if you're really going for that try-hard mode where you want to be the first on the server to finish a specific conquest, that requires a lot of dedication, a lot of planning, and a lot of game knowledge, mechanics knowledge, and a little bit of luck. You have to get the right pieces. But definitely a lot of game knowledge, like, oh, this spawns here, or this item is attainable at this level, or there's a lot of little subtleties that go along with becoming rank 1 at something.
Yeah, and also you should study tiles.
Yeah, I mean,
it changes, significantly. So.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're just trying to you're gonna get level 70 in the first few hours. I mean, that for sure you can do it. And then, as for playing, I mean, just do what you can, and I mean, playing in the GRs that you can, and just get better gear as you get leveled up. And it's just a process of, finding better loot and moving on up. It's the idea. So there's some luck involved, as everybody knows in this game, but yeah, the way that the top players do it is they kind of hedge their luck by using a group dynamic where they already know what items are harder to get than others. Like there's some upgrades, like in the list that Dioxide lists of all the items, some items are harder to get than others. and like they either cost more blood shards from gambling from Kadala, or some other thing. So there's always some variance there. But you should be fine. I mean, it's not really a race. I mean, to get high on the leaderboards, it's not really being the first on the leaderboard. It's more about being dedicated throughout the entire season, getting a lot of Paragon, being extremely active, playing a lot of hours, and then at the very end of the season, if you're like Paragon 5000, that's when you try to go for those extremely high, rank clears. But just to give you some incentive, I mean, the new Demon Hunter set is extremely strong, especially played properly. To give you a point of reference, at 3000 Paragon, which is roughly where my character is, I was able to clear a Greater Rift 135 solo, which was unheard of for Paragon 3000 Demon Hunters until just now. I mean, I think the top Paragon 3000 Demon Hunters were probably, 125 tops maybe? Like 128 maybe? I don't know. There was no way they were doing 130 plus before this season, or before this patch. So, I mean, as you can see, Wook Moog is doing GR 120s in like 7 minutes or so.
Yeah, and with not a very optimized gear for this build.
Yeah, he's not even using
I don't have much area damage.
Yeah. Now, Necro has the opportunity that it's still very strong if you want to play in groups with the meta build, which I believe will be a Poison Scythe-based build. Will be a really good trash clearer for Necros. I believe the meta Rift Guardian killer is still going to be Crusader, although Impale Demon Hunter is a close second. Witch Doctors are still also very good at killing trash, but not at the Rift Guardian, just mostly for trash. However, there are some interesting metas, or not metas, but like viable alternatives with, for example, 3 Demon Hunters and a Barbarian is a really fun build that I've done a few times, where you have the Barbarian running lots of support stuff, one of the Demon Hunters running support stuff, and then the other 2 Demon Hunters running this GOD Hungering Arrow build. Goal is to get rank 1 duo on leaderboard at some point in the night just to take a picture. That's going to be rather tough, although you're right that the best way to get it is probably going to be at the very beginning. You might have a chance though, because a lot of the top players, or at least the top super into the game players, are going to be primarily focused on 4-player stuff. So there may be a few good players that are doing like a quick solo run here or there, but it shouldn't be impossible to get very high on the 2-man leaderboard very early on, because of, like I said, that most of the groups are running 4-man. Somebody saying play solo, would Necro still be viable? I mean, within Necros, yes, of course. You can compete with Necro against other Necros. Of course, every class is viable against itself. As for solo Necro versus solo other classes, I wouldn't recommend Necro. Demon Hunter is probably one of the strongest solo classes right now, followed by probably Witch Doctor and Crusader.
So the previous run area was 7 minutes and something. I didn't see
wow.
really, but
okay, it's 7 something. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back after I finish the stream, and then I'll get all the timing. And this is the first run with the Vallas again.
Yeah, I mean, Necro is strong offensively, but lacks defensive tools, especially since a lot of the solo builds for Necro revolve around Land of the Dead timing. So basically you're running around trying to not die until Land of the Dead is off cooldown. And then you run Land of the Dead, and that's when you're in Super Saiyan mode for 20 seconds or something, and you can truly shine. But then Land of the Dead is on cooldown, you gotta wait, run around, hopefully you don't die, gather more trash, and then you can blast it when your Land of the Dead is available again. For Demon Hunter though, if you stack enough cooldown, which fortunately isn't a crazy amount, you just need about 37%. You can remain in Vengeance permanently if you have a Dawn in the cube, or if you have
perfect Dawn.
Yeah, or a perfect Dawn equipped, 65% Dawn. So you can stay permanent Vengeance, and that gives you extra 40% damage, so it multiplies your damage by 1.4, as well as giving you, if you're using the Dark Heart rune, which is what a lot of people are using, which is the one that Woog is using right now, it gives you a 50% damage reduction on top of that. In addition to those rockets and the little shots that you're firing from Vengeance, but the little rockets and those shots don't do much, so it's really just for the damage reduction and the damage multiplication. But yeah, the new build is a little bit different and a little bit hard for some newer players because it's not like Barb spin to win. You don't just hold down strafe. You don't just hold down right click. You do have to mix in generators. In this case, Hungering Arrow. You have to cast it every couple seconds at least in order to maintain the momentum going. Yeah, so the game has changed quite a bit since then, since the Archon build with Vir and Chantoto. Demon Hunter, this new build for Demon Hunters is very, very new. It's less than 2 weeks old. It came out last Tuesday, so it's 1 week old. Although Woog and I have played it on the PTR quite a bit, so we're not strangers to how it's played. I've played it. I think Woog, have you cleared a 130 something yet, or?
Yeah, I cleared on PTR. I did a 132, and here I think I have 130 or 132.
On this one as well? Okay.
Yeah. I didn't push yet,
Yeah, I didn't push for my 130 or 132, but I really did push for my 135.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on a better set of gloves, My gloves are not that great. I mean, they're primal, but I really do need either
area damage, yeah,
or a cooldown reduction, so then I can roll a little bit more area damage on somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, the perfect gloves would be crit chance, crit damage, area, and cooldown. But I mean, rolling off the decks on ancient gloves would be really hard. So, but yeah, so it's a little bit more involved, as you can see from Woog's playstyle. But it shines very well with density. So this build actually scales with the density, so the number of targets, cubically. So most builds scale quadratically with area damage, right? If you double the number of targets, you can expect, that you're increasing your damage by, well, maybe not quadruple, but it scales with the number of targets squared is the idea. That if you're hitting n targets, that each of those n targets is splashing a portion of the damage to the n-1 targets around it. So it scales like to the second power. However, with Devouring Arrow, because Devouring Arrow increases the damage of the arrow with each target it pierces, because of that increase with the number of pierces, the whole build with area damage scales to the third power then. So it scales with damage, the number of targets to the third power is the idea. So this is why it makes sense to stack area damage a lot and to get a lot of density. So this is why the build shines a lot if you have a barbarian in the group to do ground stomp or with ancient spear to try and gather all the trash in one spot, because then you get a crazy number of pierces that will make the Devouring Arrow do an insane amount of damage. Now for speed runs, you don't need to use Devouring Arrow. You're gonna kill stuff like in 1 or 2 hits anyways, so Devouring Arrow doesn't really make sense for like Torment 16, for example. In those situations, you can run Shatter Shot, which instead the Hungering Arrow on the first pierce splits into 3.
And it looks cool too.
It looks cool, yeah, and it has a better sound effect. But yeah, I think so. It has that little like metallic clanking sound.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Forgot about that.
So, yeah, but it's lightning rune. So if you have only cold gear, gear that increases cold damage, then you may want to just stick with the power.
I mean, for T16, you don't really.
I mean, for
even need
T16, it doesn't
that.
really matter. I mean, once you're at like, once you have the right rolls on everything, you're using Depth Diggers, Hunter's Wrath. So in addition, as I mentioned, in addition to the quiver, the 9th series satchel, you also want a Hunter's Wrath belt and a Depth Diggers, the pants to go into the cube. And then you also want a Focus and Restrain and like a couple other things. But once you have all those pieces, then you should be face rolling GR 90 pretty much, or even higher. So can you walk me through steps after reaching 70 as a demon hunter? From my previous experiences, I mean, usually I play in a group, but the ideas are, once you're 70 is to finish Hadric's gift, so you do the season journey. So to do the season journey involves things like completing 5 bounties, killing all of the key wardens in Torment 4, doing a Greater Rift 20 solo, killing specific bosses. But you can look these up. Just look up what the season journey is. It changes slightly each season, but it's more or less a fixed thing. So you want to do Season Journey Chapter 2 to get your first 2 pieces of the Shadow Set bonus, which will then trivialize the rest of the journey. Because once you have the 2-piece bonus with a melee weapon, it'll trivialize at that point. And so then you're going to go with... you can finish the full season journey to get the full 6-piece. And once you have the season journey completed, or I should say just chapter 4, you can focus on doing some rifts to get some keys, and then do some greater rifts to get some legendary gems. The first legendary gem you always get is Bane of the Powerful. It's not very great, but it's okay-ish. Second one is Legacy of Dreams, which you don't need. And then after that, it's random. And so the legendary gems you're going to want to look for are things like Taeguk, Bane of the Trapped, Zai's Stone of Vengeance, and the most important one is Simplicity Strength. So that's the best gem for Demon Hunters in the next patch, is Simplicity Strength. Woog, if you want to hover over your S of Johann so they can see what that gem looks like.
There it is. Also, I believe that is Simplicity Strength is probably one of the first ones to drop, right?
It's random. Only the Bane of the Powerful is the first one, and Legacy of Dreams is the second one, and then after that it's completely random.
So previous run was 6 minutes and 54.
With Vallas?
With Vallas.
Okay.
So we're like screwed. And this is
I was just saying, like, they're going both fast. I mean, you did an 8-minute Dawn one, so.
Yeah, but like on the scale so far, it's like Vallas is winning, you know?
Yeah, there's a correlation. I still agree there's a correlation, but like I said, you're gonna need to do dozens and dozens of these to really show there's a statistical significance. And even then, if there is a statistical significance, we don't know what is causing it. Is the problem? So just so the people in the Twitch chat understand what Woog is doing, there's a, I don't want to say conspiracy theory. I'll say theory, because it doesn't seem like it's a conspiracy theory. It may actually be a legit thing. Okay, so there's a theory going around that Valla's Bequest is actually a really good weapon for this GOD build, and the question is why? Because when it was tested in a controlled environment, Valla's Bequest doesn't appear to do anything special. Sure, the strafe shots pierce, but strafe itself does minimal damage. The whole point of the build is the primaries. You don't care about the strafe, you care about primaries. But there's some speculation that Valla's enables additional primaries to spawn, that you can fire more hungering arrows per second than any other weapon, in which case then it is good, but we don't know why. And so, I mean, there's even some speculation whether or not the effect exists, or is it a placebo effect. and it seems like it's probably not a placebo effect since we are measuring, a correlation of times that are faster with Vallas. But that said, I mean, you need a lot of data to really see the correlation as statistically significant, and so that's why Moog is running a lot of these. But later with dioxide, I'm going to do some more rigorous controlled testing to really see if Vallas is indeed producing more projectiles in a tangible way, and if we can understand the mechanism behind why. Because against a single target, it doesn't appear to do so.
Yeah, like theoretically, it wouldn't be able to do something like this because if the strafe projectiles pierce, it would only help with the hatred cost. Like you would have more hatred and stuff like that, but it wouldn't have direct effect on the damage itself. And if it's doing, then it's
well, actually,
broken.
strafe pierced wouldn't actually help with your hatred. I mean, firing more primaries is what helps with your hatred. The cost of strafes costs the same. It's just based on your attack speed.
Yeah, but like for example, if you can see my hatred there, it's up most of the time. Like when I'm really hitting, let's say about the conspiracy theory, then yeah, it actually fires more primary because my hatred tends to go down less than with Dawn.
Okay, well then it's consistent with that it fires more primaries because strafe hits themselves do not generate hatred. Your build doesn't generate hatred from the strafe itself. It's just firing more primaries. So yeah, so in other words, it very well could be that it's firing more primaries, but that we still need to understand why.
Yeah, that's why we're trying to replicate them.
Yeah, exactly. RDeegs, I don't know how to pronounce it. RDeegs 94. Yeah, that's exactly the idea. That yeah, it will work in terms of we can see a correlation appearing, but it's not going to be statistically significant without an enormous number of trials because of the amount of variance in a greater rift. You need a lot of trials before you can claim something as statistically proven to do so. But even if we statistically prove it, that's still not going to be sufficient for understanding why. Like, okay, yes, this works, but what is it doing that makes it better? Like, is it So we've already determined some things, that it's not proccing more area damage. It's not. The arrows aren't doing more damage themselves, so we've already eliminated a lot of the obvious things. So right now the most plausible theory is that it's something to do with the internal cooldown of the 4-piece set bonus. Just to give you a little bit of clarity, the 4-piece set bonus makes it so that you fire you fire primaries meaning hungering arrow in this case, as you strafe. And so the idea is that however, there seems to be some internal cooldown that you can't just fire more and more primaries as you strafe faster and faster and faster. We've already determined that attack speed doesn't really help. So if you increase your attack speed to say 5 attacks per second, where you're going to be generating like 20 little strafe shots per second, that's not actually going to help make more hungering arrows. So that there seems to be a cap on the number of hungering arrows generated per second.
Yeah,
that
and also
said,
attack speed would make you starve from hatred as well. So
yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, for this build, it's better that you have a lower attack speed.
Yeah. However, one of the theories is that because it has a fixed internal cooldown, let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's say every time you hit an enemy, it spawns a hungering arrow, provided you didn't spawn a hungering arrow for the last 0.2 seconds. Okay, so that would mean that the internal cooldown would be 0.2 seconds. That you're not allowed to spawn another hungering arrow until 0.2 seconds have elapsed since you spawned a hungering arrow via strafe. If that is correct, and by the way, I'm just saying 0.2 as just a placeholder number. We don't know exactly what it is, but it's somewhere around there. And if that's correct, then let's say you're hitting a target every, let's say 8 times a second. Well, that means that you're hitting a target every 0.125 seconds. And if that's the case, then you're kind of not optimally spawning the maximum number of hungering arrows, which could lead to the fact that Valla's Bequest, since you're piercing targets, you're hitting more and more targets, and you're basically gaining more chances or more opportunities to try and spawn another hungering arrow as soon as that cooldown hits the 0.2 seconds. So that is a plausible idea as to why you're spawning more hungering arrows. Of course, it's up to a limit. You can't spawn more than the internal cooldown. And now one of the ideas to try and mitigate that would be to stack more attack speed, but not too much, just enough attack speed such that you hit that internal cooldown consistently by just strafing normally without Vallas. So that's the workaround, because some people were able to test that you don't even need Valla's Bequest. You can just get around with using what was it, Rocket Storm rune? And the rockets will proc the extra projectiles occasionally. So I'm sort of leaning on that's probably the explanation for why Valla's is being used effectively, because you're spawning, you're basically reducing the gap between when the internal cooldown is off cooldown and when you hit with a projectile with strafe. Right, so you basically, the next hit, as soon as, for the sake of the example, you want to hit as soon as you can after that 0.2 seconds has elapsed.
All right, so this runs 7 minutes and 17 seconds.
Or is that the remaining time, or how much it took you?
I'll close it there, but I think it's how much it took me. Oh no, that's the remaining time.
Okay, so then it's 7 minutes and whatever.
Yeah.
7 minutes
so,
and 43 seconds.
Let's see. So far, actually, I cleared faster with Valla's Bequest. 7 minutes and 42.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a correlation there. I'm not gonna, I agree. I see the correlation just as you see the correlation. But now the real point is to, I mean, we don't really care about proving it statistically. I mean, it might actually be there. I'm not going to question it at this point. But it's really, I'm not going to be satisfied until we can replicate it in a controlled environment, which I have ideas of how to do it. But unfortunately, we're missing Dioxide, our key tester. If we had our key tester here, we could. I have a couple ideas of how we could test this.
Yeah, but like at least with this, we can see live. I mean, for example, you probably didn't see any run like this before, right? I mean, no one did this.
Well, Woody Joe did some other testing on his stream, and Dioxide and I, and actually you were there too. We did the tests in on his stream for the controlled environment tests.
Yeah, but like I mean, to actually see several runs.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that have been running it with it for a while, but to see a side by side comparison like you're doing, I don't
with
think
the same DPS,
been.
with the same sheet DPS.
Yeah, so he's using two primal weapons with the exact same stats and same DPS. And so he's basically swapping between them. So he's got a Valla's Bequest and a Dawn that he's just swapping between, and basically just doing one and then the other, alternating them between every few runs, and showing that he's consistently getting faster results with the Valla's Bequest. Although, I mean, so what, the Valla's was between 7 and 8 minutes or so, or a little over 8 sometimes, and the Dawn was like 8 to 10 minutes. So there is variance in there.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird because you cannot really tell by feel. Like, for example, you're clearing a group of mobs that are very tight and stuff like that. I mean, the area damage is going to proc on both weapons, but
yeah,
you don't have, you cannot tell like what is actually happening. And the idea of recording this is also because like I'm gonna go back on the footage and check it out to see if I see any discrepancy on the numbers itself. or yeah, we need a large sample size. I agree, but like for today, I did 10 runs. I did five with the Dawn, five with the Valla's Bequest, and all 120 runs and stuff like that. So I'm gonna do more, not today, but I can do more and record. So then we can have actually a better comparison in the future.
Yeah, well, this is just all it's proving is that there's a correlation at this point, which,
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, it very well could be for the reason that I described, that it would end up being a small improvement in terms of the damage. Um, and of course, yeah, you need a really large sample size, especially if the improvement is small and the variance of the greater rifts is high, which it is. And if the effect is like Valla's is, let's say it's doing 20% more damage on average, you need a really large sample size, like maybe 100 rifts, or even more than that, to really like kind of narrow out the variance to show that there really is a correlation there.
Yeah,
That
sure.
you then separate the two peaks, right? Because what you're actually doing is you're kind of with you as you get more and more data for say Dawn, you're going to end up with like a normal distribution, right? You're going to have a peak at some mean time, and then you're going to have a distribution of times around it, like plus or minus some number of seconds. And the idea is if you then overlay those two distributions, you should be able to separate the two peaks. And if you can separate the two peaks, then you can have some confidence that there really is something different there. But it's going to take a lot of data to see it.
Yeah, and
So
it's a weird thing that is happening because you were on the PTR, we were playing together sometimes and stuff like that, and the first thing that I did test was actually the Valla's Bequest because I had my primal, and I remember saying that like oh, this actually looks comfortable and stuff like that and whatever, but I could not tell why. And then all of a sudden, you guys said, no, no, there's no problem because it's just the projectiles and whatever. So then I completely forgot, and then I didn't run back then with this weapon anymore. And uh, I came back to the testing right now because I wanted to change my idea off of it because like for example once the patch was on I started playing with it, but I didn't do this comparison back to back, so it's very hard for you to say like oh, this is actually better than this because of this and this and that. And so far we've seen that the numbers are actually better for the Valla's Bequest. We just don't know why.
yeah, that's the thing. Even if we proved it statistically, which we didn't, our sample size is not big enough to do that yet.
Mm-hmm.
But even if we did, it still wouldn't answer the question. And so that's why I want to do some additional tests in a controlled environment, because if it is the internal cooldown thing, it is testable, and then we can easily replicate it and then say, okay, it is the internal cooldown thing. We were able to replicate it by putting characters in specific positions such that the strafe projectile will reach the second target at the precise time on the precise frame that it needs to be, and we could actually then reverse engineer what the internal cooldown is if that's indeed the case. We should be able to reverse engineer it, and that would be the ideal result, because then we would have gotten to the bottom of it, and we can actually then specifically state how good it is
Mm-hmm.
based on what the internal cooldown is, and we can even then work around and saying, okay, well, here's how we can maximize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, imagine how much. Now, again, it's not going to be that much. It's not an exploit. It's more to utilize it in the sense of optimize. So in the sense of internal cooldowns, it's in other words, if the internal cooldown was 0.2 seconds, in a way, it's you want to build your setup such that you're optimizing it so that you hit exactly on that internal cooldown, so that you get the optimal number, which in this case the maximum number of hungering arrows per second. That's the goal. And so if you can somehow set up the build to optimize the number of hungering arrows, so maybe not exploit it, but It's the idea is to optimize it there. That's the end result.
Yeah. We just, I mean, all this testing that we're doing, even on a like Iria said, on a contained environment and stuff like that and whatever, I decided to go out there and do this. So maybe just by watching afterwards the whole run, we can see, like maybe we can notice something different from each weapon and stuff like that, and perhaps understand better why is this happening. Because like on a controlled environment, so far the tests that we did previously, we didn't have any consistent data from it. Like it was pretty much similar. Didn't have a difference at all. And
well, if it is due to the internal cooldown effect, the test that Dioxide and I did would not show it, because even in the case where we had two targets, which was me and my wolf, my wolf was standing exactly next to me. So, in other words, the strafe pierce, unless it because if it pierced on the frame afterwards, unless that internal cooldown was triggered on that very next frame, it wouldn't make a difference. Because let's say the attack speed that Die was doing is 2 attacks per second or 8 projectiles per second, so it's every 0.125 seconds. And let's say on the pierce, it arrived at 0.13, let's say, right? It arrived like a couple frames later. It's still not going to be the right gap where you're going to see it. In other words, the gap needs to be wider between the initial target and the pierced target. So that's why I want to do some tests where we have a few players standing in a line where the first hit's going to hit the first player, and the strafe projectile is going to travel in a line and hit that last player at a different time. Yeah, that's the thing. But unfortunately, you can't control the wolf very much. The wolf, first of all, if you're playing, you can't. The wolf will first of all auto-engage any nearby target. So what we did is I set myself up on one side of the arena while Dioxide was on the other side, and so I moved it so that my wolf was like directly on top of me. I can't just tell my wolf to sit, unlike a real dog or some trained animals. This wolf always wants to be next to me or biting on somebody. So that's why it would be much easier with another player, because you can have the players stand at specific positions, like stand on this pixel right here, or stand over there, or stand, like some specific distance. And then we can test it. Furthermore, we can also test by changing attack speeds. That's another thing I wanted to test, because then you should be able to see the internal cooldown a little bit more clearly.
Yeah, basically we just need some crash test dummies. Real
we
ones.
Need Dioxide, really, because this is something that he wants to test as well, but he's not on right now. So
No, I mean I'm not gonna test that now. I'm gonna wrap it up the stream. I just did this to have the video and stuff like that. But anyways, I think I'm gonna record. I can do more 10 jars tomorrow in the afternoon. So I'm gonna record it here on the Twitch.
Yeah, and then what you can do is, since obviously nobody's gonna want to watch a 2-hour video, you can just kind of show the different builds, and then just list on the video the times. Like, okay, Valla's 1 equals 8 minutes, whatever. Valla's 2 equals, just list the times for each of them, and then you just so that you have tables of data. I mean, that's always helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, so and then just list the tables of data and show one run with each or something in your video.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't totally a waste, because as I told you before, we didn't have anyone that actually did video back to back like this before. So it's probably even you are leaning towards more that there is actually something happening,
Yeah, I'm starting to feel that there is, but I'm not gonna state. I mean, I'm thinking there is. Obviously, I mean, we don't have it statistically shown, but like I said, the reason I'm more leaning that there is because when we did our tests the other day, we didn't test for internal cooldown inconsistencies. What we were testing was area damage which there wasn't any problem. We tested Stricken. We thought
Mhm.
that maybe it was stacking Bane of the Stricken faster than expected. There wasn't any problem. We tested Vengeance.
Mhm.
We thought that maybe Vengeance was double dipping or something, strange. It wasn't that. And we also tested the straight up damage on a single target. And again, there was no variance there. But we didn't test varying distances, and we also didn't test the if the distance between the first and last target was large. That's the thing we didn't test.
Mhm.
That if there's you're piercing with Vallas, and if the distance between the first and last target, if it's large enough, we didn't see it there, because I'm thinking that that might actually be the smoking gun. That if we have one target at melee range and then another target just move slowly away or slowly closer at kind of like a trombone, it's a sliding scale, we
Mhm.
should be able to see some magic distance at which you're getting more procs per second because you're hitting the internal cooldown on the right frame. In which case, once we know that distance, we know the travel time for the projectile, we can divide it there to calculate what the internal cooldown is. So it's
Yeah.
a clever way we can use physics to reverse engineer the process. So we're like physicists in the game, in the world of Sanctuary.
We're Nephilim scientists.
Nephilim scientists. If they had a scientist class, I would be that scientist class.
Well, but
Yeah.
anyways, so after the testing done, I'm gonna wrap it up this, and then I'm gonna rewatch the videos and gather the
Yeah.
data
All right.
we took
Yeah,
from
I'll
it.
see you later in game maybe. So I need to take a break, but I'll be back in an hour or so.
Okay, and then tomorrow I'll record 10 more, just for the sake of having more data and a bigger sample size.
All right.
All
See ya.
right, see ya. Thanks, Siri. See ya, guys.